had been wiped out. Namely, he purified his 6 faculties or sense organs, as is discussed in the Lotus Sutra in the first half, and attained the Buddha way, while in a future lifetime he was born as Shakyamuni Buddha. In light of this, he writes, Nichiren is like Bodhisattva never disparaging of old. Those who practice the Lotus Sutra may differ with the age, but the fundamental cause for attaining Buddhahood is still the same. So he says, what never disparaging had to do is the same thing I've experienced, the same thing you guys are going to have to experience. Same thing I experienced. The basic formula remains. Accordingly, if we make the same kind of causes Bodhisattva never disparaging did through his Buddhist practice, then we can also become Buddhas without fail. How could it be that he, Nichiren, would not become equal to Shakyamuni, become a Buddha equal to Shakyamuni? Nichiren is saying this for the benefit of his disciples. He already knows he's the Buddha, but he's letting everybody know you are too. He indicates the principle of the oneness of mentor and disciple, which has become so distorted by the enemies of the law. They've so distorted that what that actually is. It indicates the principle of the oneness of mentor and disciple. The continuum that's represented by Mr. Makaguchi and Mr. Toda and Mr. Ikeda. In other words, by following his example of triumphing over hardships and steadfastly carrying out the practice of shakabuku, his disciples too can definitely attain Buddhahood. But you can't do it unless you refute that error, if you let it blow by, if you don't go, no, that's not right, that's not my understanding, you won't get there. Of course, our ordinary lives may seem quite different from the life of a great predecessor like the Daishonin. That only stands to reason because we are different individuals with our own circumstances, personalities, abilities, and so on, our own specific, unique missions. Nevertheless, we can make the same kind of causes because they all come from the heart of the Lion King. Pursue the same practice and actions as the courageous votaries of the Lotus Sutra who have gone before us, emulating our teachers. Then we can achieve the same effects or results. This is a view of causality based on the path of mentor and disciple. As I've said, I'm telling you things that Mr. Osaki taught me, that my other mentors have taught me. While disciples may feel unequal to the mentor in terms of wisdom or compassion, you may not think that you're the equal to somebody that you're trying to emulate. So long as they maintain the same commitment, the same goal of achievement, ideals and dedicated efforts as the mentor, they can definitely attain the mentor's same expansive life state. No one's limited based on some capacity. You're not in comparison to your mentor. Okay? Your mentor is a reflection of your karma, your fortune. Okay? Your mentor is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of you. It's not something outside of yourself. Mm-hmm. All right? This is the path to attaining Buddhahood. So there can be no step inequality. Your mentor cannot be someone greater than you, or they couldn't be your mentor. Do you understand? Okay. This is the path to attaining Buddhahood based on the spirit of the oneness of mentor and disciple found in the Lotus Sutra. When Shakyamuni said, you're all the same as me. The strict law of causality. Moreover, those who now slander him are like Bhadrapala and the others who curse never disparaging. They will be tortured in the Avicii hell for 1,000 kalpas. I therefore pity them deeply and wonder what can be done for them. Those who belittled and cursed never disparaging acted that way at first, but later they took faith in his teachings and willingly became his disciples. The greater part of the fault of their slander was thus expiated, but even the small part that remained caused them to suffer as terribly as one who had killed one's parents 1,000 times. The people of this age refuse to repent at all. And that's, again, Mr. Lee, the answer to your question. Therefore, as the simile and parable chapter states, they must suffer in hell for a countless number of kalpas. They may even suffer there for a duration of major world system dust particle kalpas or numberless major world system dust particle kalpas. It's about repentance. You can't repent for someone else, Mr. Lee. Regarding those who persecuted Bodhisattva never disparaging, as a result of their actions, they were destined to not encounter a Buddha for 200 million kalpas and to suffer terrible agonies for 1,000 kalpas in the Avicii hell, or hell of incessant suffering. Nichiren Daishonin says he pities those who in the present age are making similar causes by persecuting him, but that nothing can be done for them. No one can manipulate the law of cause and effect. It is strict and uncompromising. Nobody can save you from the causes you've made but you. Nichiren goes on to note that even people who had attacked never disparaging could eventually, through the connection they had formed with the Bodhisattva, encounter his teaching again and, like Bhadrapala and others, become his disciples when he was reborn as Shakyamuni Buddha. But Nichiren points out that those slandering him in his current lifetime have no intention to reform or change their erroneous views. He laments that as a result they will be consigned to endless suffering for countless kalpas. Top of page 52. The fearful nature of the devil king of the sixth heaven. Aside from these people, going back to the Gosho, there are also those who appeared to believe in me, but began doubting when they saw me persecuted. They not only have forsaken the Lotus Sutra, but also actually think themselves wise enough to instruct me. The pitiful thing is that these perverse people must suffer in the Avicii hell even longer than the Nimbutsu believers. Nichiren Daishonin explains that arrogant disciples pose the greatest problem. For the offense of erstwhile followers who do not merely abandon their faith, but out of an inflated opinion of themselves, denigrate their teacher and fellow practitioners, is far more serious than that of those who object and slander the correct teaching from the outset. Their retribution will be more severe. Vexed in trouble, head split in 7 pieces. Moreover, disciples who have allowed their lives to be consumed by fundamental darkness and ignorance will seek to sway others, potentially causing many to stop practicing. Such is the fearful nature of the devil king of the sixth heaven. In the workings of Brahma and Chakra, Nichiren remarks, those possessed by a great devil will, once they succeed in persuading a believer to recant, use that person as a means for making others abandon their faith as well. You cannot participate in that, bro. Even though such individuals had the fortune to encounter and take faith in the mystic law, they ultimately allowed their lives to be controlled by the devil king of the sixth heaven. The fundamental reason can be traced to arrogance, the essence of which is jealousy and contempt for the mentor. The Daishonin's description of such individuals as perverse people who actually think themselves wise enough to instruct him stands as an eternal admonition to his followers. The Buddhist principle of cause and effect operates across eternity. Those who live in accord with the causality of the mystic law will prosper forever. Their good fortune will flow on to their loved ones and descendants for infinite future generations of the latter day of the law. On the other hand, Nichiren declares that those followers who forget the way of mentor and disciple and betray their faith and fellow practitioners must suffer in the Avicii hell even longer than the Nimbutsu believers. The Daishonin awakened to the law that makes it possible for all people to achieve enlightenment. In terms of the fundamental path of attaining Buddhahood, the teaching of Nichiren Daishonin, the Buddha of the latter day, is absolute. As a teacher, he dedicated himself to fostering and training disciples, and therefore his instruction was often very strict. Some, however, failed to understand his heart and turned against him. Yet no matter how those perverse individuals might have maligned his name, Nichiren remained unperturbed. And Asura contended that going back to a promise of victory to disciples. Top of page 53. We're almost there. And Asura contended that the Buddha taught only 18 elements, but that he himself expounded 19. The non-Buddhist teachers claimed that the Buddha offered only one way to enlightenment, but that they had 95. In the same way, the renegade disciples say, though the priest Nichiren is our teacher, he is too forceful. We will spread the Lotus Sutra in a more peaceful way. In so asserting, they are being as ridiculous as fireflies laughing at the sun and moon, and anthill belittling Mount Hua, wells and brooks despising the river and ocean, or a magpie mocking a phoenix. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nichiren, the 12th day of the 3rd month of the 9th year of Brunei, 1272, cyclical sign Mizun Noe Saru. To Nichiren's disciples and lay supporters, and that's from the Vol.1, page 306. Nichiren Daishonin closes the main body of the text of a letter from Sado with a passage expressing the towering conviction of a lion king. Expressing the towering conviction of a lion king. Here he points out that the arrogant will try to add their personal, arbitrary views to the Buddhist teaching. And boy, I read a lot of that since I saw you guys last. For instance, when Shakyamuni taught the existence of 18 elements, and Asura bragged of knowing 19 elements, and when the Buddha taught that there was only one ultimate way to enlightenment, the non-Buddhists claimed that they knew of 95 ultimate ways. Among Nichiren's disciples were similarly arrogant and ignorant people who looked down on him and said disparagingly, though the priest Nichiren is our teacher, he is too forceful. We will spread the Lotus Sutra in a more peaceful way. While it might appear at first that they maintain faith in the Lotus Sutra, just like you guys that say you're still practicing, that you've been Titan, you've been separated from the organization, you left after 10 years, you've been practicing. Yeah, sure, you've been practicing 40. You haven't been practicing for 40-something years. Among Nichiren's disciples were similarly arrogant and ignorant people who looked down on him and said disparagingly, though the priest Nichiren is our teacher, he is too forceful. Maybe you say that about me too. We will spread the Lotus Sutra in a more peaceful way. While it might appear at first that they maintained faith in the Lotus Sutra, they had in fact lost sight of the sutra's essence. Consequently, they could not appreciate the true greatness of their teacher, Nichiren Daishonin, in propagating the Lotus Sutra in the latter day. Because that's the deal. We're in the latter day. That's why we do shakabuku. From the viewpoint of Buddhism, the Sado exile and other persecutions were ultimately the result of the devil king of the sixth heaven having entered the lives of the ruler and other powerful figures in order to drive a wedge between Nichiren and his followers. When the bonds uniting mentor and disciple are healthy and strong, the power and influence of the mystic law increases. The momentum for the eternal perpetuation of the correct teaching strengthens and spreads, and the great path leading to happiness and peace for all humanity, the fundamental goal of Buddhism, opens wide. The devil king, therefore, seeks to prevent this at any cost. In that sense, the disciples who criticize Nichiren while avoiding hardship themselves, because they don't meet the three powerful enemies. So they think they have these great peaceful lives, and they don't know that they're full of shit. That peaceful life is the ticket that they don't know what they're talking about. In that sense, do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, that's because we don't begrudge our lives and they do. In that sense, the disciples who criticized Nichiren while avoiding hardship themselves had, despite seeming reasonableness, had been utterly defeated by the devil king. They had surrendered the all-important spirit of mentor and disciple to the devilish nature, to their inner fundamental darkness. I can vividly picture the Daishonin proclaiming they are being as ridiculous as fireflies laughing at the sun and moon, and anthill belittling Mount Hua, wells and brooks despising the river and the ocean, or a magpie mocking a phoenix. The first three Soka Gakkai presidents have forged ahead in their efforts for Kosen Rufu with this same conviction. And that's where I learned that conviction from. From them, not from anything I've ever read from Nichiren Shoshu. Letter from Sado reveals Nichiren's towering state of mind while undergoing life-threatening persecution. It is the mentor's declaration of victory. At the same time, it is both a call to and a promise of victory addressed to his courageous disciples struggling alongside him to surmount great challenges. The victory of disciples is the victory of Soka. Continuing on page 54, second column, to the Gosho. There is very little writing paper here in the province of Sado, and to write to you individually would take too long. Nevertheless, if one person fails to hear from me, it will cause resentment. Therefore, I want people with seeking minds, to meet and read this letter together for encouragement. When great trouble occurs in the world, minor troubles become insignificant. Yeah. I do not know how accurate the reports reaching me are, but there must surely be intense grieving over those killed in the recent battles. What has become of the lay priests Izawa and Sakebe? Send me news of Kawanobe, Yamashiro, Tokugyoji, and others. Also, please be kind enough to send me the essentials of government in the Chinquan era, the collection of tales from the non-Buddhist classics, and the record of the teachings transmitted within the 8 schools. Without these, I cannot even write letters. This section constitutes a postscript. It shows Nichiren Daishonin's concern and profound compassion for each of his followers. He inquires after the welfare of specific individuals and asks to be sent various texts to use as references for his writing. At his remote place of exile on Sado, Nichiren continued his tireless spiritual struggle, motivated by his immense compassion for all humanity. It wasn't about being smarter than everybody else. It was about understanding about where that path was going to take them and wanting to shake them by the shoulders so they'd wake up. I have always felt that it is incredibly fortunate for a person to have a mentor. I have been committed to repaying even the smallest kindness that my mentor has shown to me by devoting myself wholeheartedly to Kosen Rufu. So the mentor is not somebody, he's not your district chief reading from this section of whatever. It's that person you find that also practices with the heart of a Lion King that you connect with, and they are somehow able to affect in you a belief that you can be one as well. That's when you find a mentor. That's what a mentor is. It's not your local leader. It's not your chapter chief. It's not anybody that's not doing the things that turn you into a Buddha. The mentor is those that turn you into a Buddha. And it may take time and a reflective view over your shoulder before you realize that's what they did. But then you will always say, that was my mentor. He was my mentor as well. Several mentors. I have always felt that it is incredibly fortunate for a person to have a mentor. I have been committed to repaying even the smallest kindness that my mentor has shown to me by devoting myself wholeheartedly to Kosen Rufu. At the end of April 1951, immediately before my mentor Josei Toda was inaugurated as second Soka Gakkai president, reversing all of the bullshit he was going through at the beginning of this section, I reread Letter from Sado as a testament to the victory of mentor and disciple. In my diary that month, I specifically wrote down the following passages from April 27th of that year, 51, when an evil ruler, this is quotes from the Gosho, when an evil ruler in consort with priests of erroneous teachings tries to destroy the correct teaching and do away with a man of wisdom, those with the heart of a Lion King are sure to attain Buddhahood. Like Nichiren, for example, from page 302 of Volume 1, from April 28th. In the same way, the renegade disciples say, though the priest Nichiren is our teacher, he is too forceful. We will spread the Lotus Sutra in a more peaceful way. In so asserting, they are being as ridiculous as fireflies laughing at the sun and the moon, an anthill belittling Mount Hua, wells and brooks despising the river and ocean, or a magpie mocking a phoenix, from page 306. President Ikeda concludes, for me, Letter from Sado is a writing of the victory of mentor and disciple, which President Toda and I studied and used as an inspiration in overcoming adversity. I vowed that in order to actualize his vision I would first do my best and take full responsibility. Toward that end, I resolved to develop my district. I started by visiting members at their homes, holding discussion meetings, and stirring a great groundswell of propagation. This is because the future victory of Kosan-Rufu lies in expanding the unparalleled realm of mentor and disciple of Soka outward from our own districts. To engage in one-on-one dialogue to convey the greatness of Nichiren Buddhism, to courageously share the noble path of mentor and disciple with others. This is what it means in modern terms to put into practice the spirit of Letter from Sado. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you.